And news now begins at this hour, in Nigeria, where they say that no fewer than 386 people, mostly women and children, have been rescued by the army in Sambisa Forest 10 years after their abduction. The acting GOC 7 Division, Brigadier General A.J.L. Aruna, made this known while speaking to newsmen on Saturday at the outskirts of Sambisa Forest in Kondunga local government area after welcoming the troops that conducted the 10-day operation. Haruna said that the operation, tagged Operation Desert Sanity 111, was to clear Sambisa Forest of the remnants of all categories of terrorists, as well as provide some of them eager to surrender, as observed the opportunity to do so. The GOC, who addressed the troops on the message of Chief of Army Staff, lauded their performance and professionalism exhibited during the operation and urged them to sustain the tempo. The Special Intelligence Squad of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps Commandant General has dismantled an illegal refining site containing over 100,000 liters of stolen crude oil in Adobe settlement Aceh local government area at Rivers State. According to the commander of the squad, Dandaura Apollos, the success resulted from credible intelligence indicating that suspects had vandalized, a multinational company's wellhead. The suspects had connected galvanized metal pipes with huge holes to siphon and locally process the crude oil. In the meantime, the chairman of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, has said that the plan the Dangote Refinery has in place that Nigeria will not need to import premium motor spirit by next month. Dangote said that the refinery, which has already started supplying diesel and aviation fuel in Nigeria, has the capacity to meet the diesel and petrol needs of West Africa and the aviation fuel demand of the entire African continent. The richest man in Africa spoke as a panelist at the Africa CEO Forum Annual Summit in Kigali. Highlighting how far the oil company has gone, Dangote expressed how they are focused in ensuring that the continent will depend less on importation in the nearest future. And now joining me on the news to discuss this further is partner at Olaniwu Ajayi LP, and that's Chukwuemeka Osoji. Chukwuemeka, a very good afternoon to you. Let's get started. I mean, one looks at this statement from Dangote and one asks, how realistic is Dangote's projection of Nigeria not needing to import premium motor spirits, PMS, by next month?
Thank you very much and good afternoon. I think in terms of what is realistic, it might be a bit difficult for those of us who are sitting on this side to tell. Pretty much it's for Dangote himself, who's running the refinery, or whose company is running the refinery, to indicate, given the pace of production and how far they've ramped up the production capacity of the refinery, to then indicate how long it will take them to get to a level where we'll be able to attain that sort of self-sufficiency. So it's difficult to second guess that point. I think what is more relevant for me and for a lot of people, a lot of Nigerians, is the fact that first and foremost, that refinery is produced quite a good number of distillates. And at this moment, we then hear that in no distant time, we will then start producing sufficient volumes of PMS that will, require us not to import. And that's good news in itself. Whether we actually get to 100% there in next month or in 2 months or in 3 months, what is more important for me is the fact that the refinery is producing, and at least there's something we can work with in terms of timelines.
All right, so fuel production, all right, and increased fuel production by the Dangote Refinery. But how would it then, let's talk about the effect of that on fuel prices within Nigeria and across West Africa. How might the increased fuel production by the Dangote Refinery affect, fuel prices?
Now, that's one very naughty point where a lot of Nigerians are still a bit concerned, because there are two things. One is having, enough product supply in the system to make sure that all the four queues we used to witness will be a thing of the past. But present, there's a very dicey situation, because you recall that even when we start producing fuel domestically, there are still a whole lot of other factors that impact on fuel prices. Now, those factors will continue to be there to be there, even if it's to a reduced extent. So I think with time, the pricing might reduce a bit. But I dare say we can never go back to the earlier levels we used to see last year or 2 years ago. That's something that I think it's going to be difficult for us to get there. But I think if we get in enough volumes, given, of course, we are no longer importing those volumes and all those associated costs that go with importation will be reduced, we will begin to see an impact on pricing. But I must warn, I'm not sure it will get to where, in quote, Nigerians will want the pricing to get to, at least in the short term. But at least in the immediate term, there will be a slight impact on pricing. Then perhaps gradually we'll then begin to see more reduced pricing.
And then what then will now be the potential economic benefits for Nigeria if it becomes self-sufficient in fuel production, all thanks to Dangote Refinery?
Oh, that's enormous. Speaking directly to the refinery itself, job creation on the back of that refinery itself is enormous. And of course, you must realize at the scale at which that refinery is operating, there are now significant feeder companies that derive value from that company. So, for example, those that are making supplies to that company, all the other companies that will be lifting products from those companies, haulage, logistics, terminals, pipelines, it's nameless. So in terms of the value chain, in terms of the value that can come out of that refinery alone directly, it's enormous. And of course, the revenue that that refinery will earn, it's a good thing that that refinery is in Nigeria. The fact that that refinery is in Nigeria and presumably selling the product in Naira, that will, of course, from that point of view, help the country to alleviate some of the significant pressure and burden on the forex, which we've had over a number of years. So if that continues to happen, then, of course, government revenue will be adjusted. You might even begin to see a bit of impact on inflation, and then all the other inflationary pressures, including as it relates to transportation, that will begin to reduce. So I think from an economic point of view, Nigeria stands to benefit enormously from this refinery once we get up to full production.
And let's widen the scope of this conversation. Let's widen it this time and look at on the international stage. What impact do you foresee this happening, on international competitors when it comes to fuel production, the fuel production market?
Well, internationally speaking, at least as it impacts Nigeria, there's really not much of a competition. Because as you're aware, over the last couple of years, decade or so, our domestic production capacity plummeted so much that we were pretty much importing all that we needed. And unfortunately, we were not able to access very proximate West African or even African markets for our needs, because our neighbors weren't producing enough. Even if they had production, none of them had enough production to meet Nigeria's needs, even half of our needs. So in terms of that direct competition, I don't even see any competition. What will simply happen is that we will then step up to where we ought to have been. That's that pride of place where Nigeria will then begin to supply domestically and at the same time flood the West African and the broader sub-Saharan African market with products. So perhaps internationally speaking, the persons we were buying products from before, of course, they will have a loss because we no longer have to go to them. But I think I will look at it from a perspective of competition. I will look at it that this is now a new entrant to the market. And of course, the market is global. It's not just the Nigerian market. It's not even just an African market. And Dangote's strategy is a global strategy. So yes, one more entrant into the market, but there's still, sufficient market for Dangote to come in and then and sell its products without even needing to drastically shake the market share of other producers. But what would happen is all those who were looking to Nigeria as a source of export would pretty much have to face other markets because, of course, Dangote will, and then, of course, when our own domestic refineries, the modular refineries and the refurbishments come on stream, all that can then contribute to the self-sufficiency which we have been yearning for years now.
Many thanks so much for coming. I appreciate you for doing this with us, Chukwuemeka.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And now we move to eastern Nigeria, in Abia State, where the governor, Alex Oti, has commiserated with the Nigerian Army over the death of a soldier who was shot dead by unknown gunmen on Saturday at the army checkpoint at Asa Road by Milverton, Abia, vowing to ensure that the culprits were brought to book. The governor, who was represented by his deputy engineer Ikechukwu Lakwechi Emetu, paid an on-the-spot visit where he met with the brigadier commander 14th Brigade Nigerian Army, or Hafia, In a statement signed by Sir Cyril Chukwudi Eke Mba, the Chief Press Secretary to the Deputy Governor, OT expressed sadness over the unwarranted incident and called for concerted efforts to fish out the culprits of the heinous act. And still in eastern Nigeria, but this time at Anambra State, where the governor, Chukwuma Soludo, has sacked all transition committee chairmen across the 21 local government areas of the state. Now, this is contained in a letter titled Expiration of Tenure and Handover to Heads of Local Government Administrations, HLGAs, dated May 17, 2024, and signed by the State Commissioner for Local Government, Chieftaincy and Community Affairs, Collins Nwambuwane. The order takes effect from Monday, May 20th, 2024. And on to some sad news here. A trailer lost control and crashed into 3 mini-buses, leaving 7 persons feared dead in Owerri, the Imo State capital, on Saturday. It was gathered that the truck hit about 20 persons at the Imo State University Junction in Owerri after the driver lost control of the vehicle. The incident occurred around 7 p.m. on Saturday night. Sources said the heavy-duty truck was driving against traffic and eventually rammed into 3 minibuses with 9 passengers each, including the drivers. Some of the victims were rushed to the Federal University of Technology Hospital Owerri for treatment, while 7 others confirmed dead had been deposited at the morgue. And on to northern Nigeria, where the governor, or rather the Borno State government, north central Nigeria, has taken steps to support the commencement of academic activities at the newly established Federal College of Education, Guza. This is part of the rebuilding efforts by the government in healing the wounds inflicted on the state by insurgencies. News Central's Umaru Kirawa reports.
The rocky and hilly town of Goza in Nigeria's Borno State. It used to be a dreaded area at the peak of the Boko Haram insurgency. The establishment of the Federal College of Education there is an important step in the state's efforts to rebuild and strengthen the educational system, which suffered major setback through insurgency.
We hope to see that students are admitted to Federal College of Education Goza this academic session. And I want to commend the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu, for giving us the approval or the take-up of this very important school. So, inshallah, we hope academic activities will fully resume this academic session, no matter how small the quantum of students should be admitted.
The college is expected to play an important role in training and equipping the next generation of lecturers who will be instrumental in the recovery and development of the region. The government has approved 200 million naira to facilitate the college's operations and has also announced plans to construct a housing estate for the lecturers.
A duk randa gwamna ya shigo kasan Goza, wani abu sabo ne yake faru.
Gaba lafiya ba lafiya.
To sabon tun kafin ya zo ma sabon ya fara. Gashi yanzu an fara gyara Federal College of Education na Goza wanda shi gwamna wanda ba hakkinsa ba a taimako da kuma ya ga wannan abun ya yi taken off. Shi yanzu gashi ya fara su classrooms, ana fencing, laboratories da sauransu gaba daya gashi nan ya fara. Gashi kuma nursing school wanda ya mana alkawari muna gani yana ta tafiya har sama muka ce wannan hawa nawa ne za a yi haka.
In a continued effort to aid the post-insurgency recovery in Borno State, the government has announced plans to resettle more villages in Goza local government area.
We have identified some villages that are to be resettled in Goza local government area of Borno State, namely Teke, Modibe, Bita, Wala A, Wala B, Ashigasha, Hambagda. These communities shall be resettled.
Improved security to aid farming activities for the people to eat what they are producing is a major concern now. Access roads to some of the villages and towns, particularly border communities in Goza, remains another nightmare. The healing process might take some time. However, the expectation of the people is that the government will continue to create conducive environment for development. In Goza for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Still on education. The educational sector in Nigeria has faced several challenges, including access to quality learning. However, Nigerian classrooms are seeing a gradual shift towards technology-aided learning, with educators embracing the potential of educational technology to enhance learning. News Central's Chidima Ona has more in this report.
At the primary level, more than 10 million Nigerian children are out of school. For those in school, the quality of learning is deficient, as 75% of primary school pupils can't read with understanding or solve a simple math problem. This problem has prompted the Nigerian government, stakeholders, and international bodies including UNICEF to create learning passports that exploit the opportunities offered by digitalization for the learning and development of Nigerian children.
The reason why we come into this area is to provide children with their opportunity to have access to their own fundamental right, which is access to quality education, which is goal number 4 of the SDG goals.
We have an issue of a lack out of school children. Why haven't we deployed technology in the way that we did during that time to reach all these children to learn? Why haven't we deployed technology to gather the data to really identify, where are they? Where are the children who are not in school, and how can we reach them?
In higher institutions, more schools, private organizations are embracing the potential of educational technology to enhance student engagement and knowledge retention.
As a country, I think Nigeria needs technology to solve a lot of our societal problems, to be able to also gain access to education at the highest quality.
Also the role of leadership. It's the willingness to do this. The reason why we acted the way that we did during the pandemic was because there was a crisis, it was urgent, people could see the immediate impact of what it meant to not do anything, and everybody came around. So you could see deep collaboration and you could see leadership that came from, every single person.
However, the road to a tech-integrated Nigerian education system is not seamless. A big hurdle is adequate infrastructure and the high cost of devices that often create an uneven playing field.
When you talk about, that infrastructure, some of it will be done by private sector. And how do we attract investment into the country so that they can build those platforms? But also, even apart from building that, we also need to make sure that we can provide, that access and the tools like laptops, computers, iPads to children, to people all across the country.
Even if with the millions of out of schools that we have in Nigeria, if we are to bring them back to school, do we have sufficient infrastructure to accommodate them? That's a question we need to answer. Do we have sufficient teachers to take care of them? Because today the pupil-teacher ratio, when you look at the annual school census statistics in Nigeria, it's around 120 pupils to a teacher. That's very high.
As more private sectors and government offer opportunities to advocate digital inclusiveness for all children, the future of Nigerian education seems to be leaning towards a more technologically progressive system.
You're watching news now on News Central TV. We'll go on a short break. Stay with us. Nigeria's federal government says it has designated the mining and jewelry sector as a key economic driver and aims to harness the potentials in the sector to boost the nation's economy. Now, this was during an event in Abuja showcasing a vast array of gemstones, the work of newly trained dwellers trained by the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development. News Central's Joshua Imarai has the details.
In an effort to tap into Nigeria's abundant mineral resources and promote economic diversification, the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development, with support from the World Bank, has launched an initiative to empower a new generation of jewelers. The ministry during the National Gemstone and Jewelry Show showcased the work of newly trained jewelers, featuring a stunning array of gemstone and jewelry pieces, highlighting the intersection of these two vibrant industries. Stakeholders during the event called for policies aimed at harnessing the entire potential of the jewelry sector.
I think I feel well privileged to see quite a number of jewelers who are here. We hope at the end of the day and believe that we are going to upgrade the system to a better downstream engagement.
To our esteemed fathers and leaders in their various endeavors, education is no longer enough. We must develop policies that are skill-centered and sustainable to retain our position as the giant of Africa. The DG of NIMG stressed the need for an international annual event of this nature. We travel around the world for different gemstone exhibitions, and most of these gemstones actually come from Nigeria. It is now time for us to home it here in Nigeria.
Nigeria's Minister for Solid Minerals announced that government has designated the mining and jewelry sector as a key economic driver, aiming to harness the nation's mineral resources and boost economic growth.
Most people would not know or believe that this particular industry can flourish to that extent. And in fact, there's room for expansion to make more money. But the more important point that I want to make is that this sector, the solid mineral sector, is the next economic jugular of Nigeria.
The gemstone and jewelry industry has continued to grow. Industry insiders here say it has the potential to become a significant contributor to Nigeria's economy. They say providing training and capacity building for local jewelry designers, as well as fostering public-private collaboration, will drive growth and sustainability of the sector. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
Farming is an age-long profession which is predominantly practiced by people in the rural areas, including those in the southeast region of Nigeria. Now, several communities in Abia State are involved in farming activities, with their people seriously engaged during farming season, but lack the basic amenities that aid farming. In this special report, News Central's Chinwe Ugeli visited Obioha, Obi Ibere community, known for its farming activities in Ikwanu local government area of Abia State. Here's a report.
For farming to be efficiently done, there must be basic facilities ranging from tractors, trucks, good roads, and other incentives that make farming seamless. Oboha Obibere Autonomous Community in Ikwana local government area of Abia State is arguably the most endowed with vast and arable lands, part of which are used in cultivation of food and cash crops. From melon to cassava, this community has it all when it comes to food crops and also large deposits of firewood in all their lands. Piles of firewood adorn their road paths and farmlands, waiting for buyers to bring their vehicles to move them. This setback is also the reason the farmers do not attract the patronage they deserve and possibly sell their produce at cheaper costs.
We produce largely the garri you see in the whole Abia State. It comes out of this community, you see. But the problem we are facing, maybe I'm not going to that. The problem is the road you've just plied.
From the location of the farms to their popular Ndoro market, which functions every 4 days, the roads are nearly inaccessible and made only tricycles and motorcycles the only source of transportation connecting the farmers and the market in a throat-cutting cost. The government can render assistance to the farmers by constructing their major access road to reduce the high cost of transportation and by extension prices of food items and cash crops.
We try to talk about this fuel issue and the prices, try to make things to be reduced.
So the problem is that nobody is helping us. It takes us our life to transport our products.
Although people still travel from Umuahia, the state capital, and neighboring Akwa Ibom community to buy food items, it is no longer because of its affordability as was the case in the past, but for the freshness of the goods. Not even the garri and plantain, which are produced in large quantities here, cost less.
When they produce it, they want it to market, it's very cost. Now, a cup of Gary now, they are selling 2 cup or 3 cup, 500 naira.
I was at the Ministry of Agriculture in Abia State to see the Commissioner, Professor Monica Ironkwe, to know what plans government has for such a community to boost food production, but was told by the staff that she was out for a meeting, and 13 hours later, the Commissioner responded my message informing me she was out of town. The proposal or decision for a partnership with an Israeli firm by the Abia State government will only make sense when such a community is considered and explored for its agrarian endowments and exploits. In Omaha for News Central, Chinwe Ugeli.
The news continues in West Africa, where an alliance of separatist rebel groups fighting Malian government forces on Saturday accused the army and Russian paramilitary group Wagner of killing 11 civilians earlier in the week. The allegations were made in a statement from the Permanent Strategic Framework for the Defense of the People of Azawad, CSPDPA, an alliance of predominantly Tuareg armed rebel groups. The CSPDPA said Wednesday the village of Tassak in the northern Kildal region was targeted by a patrol of mercenaries from the Russian Wagner Group and the Malian army, who committed serious violations against the population. The separatist alliance puts the death toll at 11 civilians whose bodies were discovered burned, with 2 more civilians reported missing. And on to Central Africa now, where Congo's army says it has foiled a coup early Sunday morning and arrested the perpetrators, including several foreigners, following a shootout between armed men in military uniform and a top politician's guard that left 3 people dead in the capital of Kinshasa. Clashes were reported between men in military uniform and guards of a local politician at the politician's house that is on Shashi Boulevard, which is 2 kilometers from the presidential palace and where some embassies are also located. Now, this came amid a crisis gripping President Felix Tshisekedi's ruling party over an election for the parliament's leadership, which was supposed to be held Saturday but was postponed. And on to South Africa, where President Cyril Ramaphosa holds a rally in Mandini before South Africans go to the polls for the country's general election on May 29th. Ramaphosa highlighted the achievements of his African National Congress, and that is ANC, which has ruled the country for all its 30 years of democracy as it heads into a tight race in May's election.
Support here is huge and enormous. So in the final days of the campaign, there's nothing better than being in a place like this where the ANC has a huge amount of support, which I think prevails all over the country. And it's really heartening to see South Africans responding to the calls we have made that they should go out and vote, and their vote is support for our democracy. Whichever party they vote for, it's really strengthening our democracy, and I'm hoping for a really huge turnout in this election.
Kwehlandla lika-7 bephatha umbuso bazokwenza izinto zibe more ngokwenzeka kwazo, kodwa wagxila kakhulu ezintweni zolusha. Hayi, kungijabulise kakhulu lokho. Wagxila kakhulu futhi ezintweni zabantu abadala abanjengami nje kanje, ukuthi impesheni izoba kade. Kuningi kakhulu manje, kusenze safikelwa yithemba elisha. Ngicabanga ukuthi uma engabuyela embusweni aphathe futhi kulokhu kuningi esizokuzuza.
Okusha ukuthi kuphinde kusizakale abantu abasha njengoba beseqalile ANC kubasiza, kuphinde kusizakale nabadala abakhubazekile njengoba uANC busuqalile ukubanika insiza laba abakhubazekile, abalimi abasebasha bayitholile insiza futhi kuhulumeni. Kuningi nje kusazoqhubeka uANC umbuyele.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump has called his Democratic rival, Joe Biden, crooked and a threat to democracy during a speech at the National Rifle Association annual meeting in Dallas, Texas. Trump also put on a French accent to recount a phone call he claims he had as president with French President Emmanuel Macron. In a 90-minute rambling address to the politically powerful National Rifle Association, Trump said Biden is the worst president in the history of the country, and that's USA by far, and suggested the Democrat was full of BS.
Accepted money from China, from Russia, from Ukraine, from everywhere. If that were a Republican, he would have been given the electric chair. They would have brought back the death penalty. He's the most crooked. He's also the most crooked president we've ever had. And to spin it a little bit, he is a threat to democracy. You know, they like to say, I'm a threat to democracy. What the hell have I done? So Macron, leader of France, gets on the phone. Emmanuel, how are you? His name is Emmanuel. Beautiful, beautiful name. Especially when it's spoken in French. Emmanuel. Emmanuel, how are you? Oh, Donald, I am so good. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for asking. How's your wife? His wife is lovely, by the way. And I say, how's your wife? My wife is so good. Thank you so much.
Hundreds of supporters of Venezuela's opposition rallied in Victoria, where opposition leader Maria Corina Machado presented a proxy candidate for the presidential election against Nicolas Maduro. Machado won an opposition primary last year, but has been banned from standing by courts loyal to Maduro, who is seeking a third six-year term. Another candidate, known as diplomat Edmundo Gonzalez Utare, has been nominated in Machado's place, but she has continued to campaign as the opposition's popular figurehead.
De una persona honorable a quien la historia le ha puesto el reto y el honor más grande que puede haber en la vida. Y este es un hombre, y aquí está para todos los venezolanos el próximo presidente de Venezuela.
Imaginemos por un momento el país que viene, un país en el que el presidente no insulta ni ve a sus adversarios, un país en el que la salud no esté enferma y la educación eduque. Un país sin presos políticos. A la Fuerza Armada Nacional. Ustedes cumplen un papel fundamental en la seguridad de todos. Seré garante de su institucionalidad, tal como reza el artículo 328 de la Constitución.
Active and retired police officers protested outside a police station in Misiones, Argentina, for the second straight day. The demonstrators, who were joined by school teachers and professors, are angry about their salaries and want the government to do more. Aerial footage showed police vehicles on the street, with many sounding their sirens in support. Soup kitchens have also been set up to support the action.
Le pedimos al gobierno de la provincia de Misiones que abra su corazón, que no busque culpables, sino que busque una solución inmediata a toda esta problemática que es puramente y exclusivamente salarial. Apoyen, que nos acompañen, que nos apoyen, porque este reclamo que nosotros estamos haciendo es legítimo y que esto va a hacer abrir por ahí la mente de muchos trabajadores. Nos solidarizamos nosotros con la docencia, con el personal de salud que sabemos que ellos también están sufriendo la misma situación. Y bueno,
en nuestro sector policial y penitenciario aquí de la provincia de Misiones, a lo largo de estos últimos 5 meses, ha experimentado una depreciación en la capacidad de compra, una pérdida en la capacidad de compra en más del 50% del sueldo. Y esto nos ha puesto en una situación de extrema vulnerabilidad de ahí. Y queremos que los hijos de los nuestros, ¿no es cierto?, de nuestro sector, puedan racionar, por lo menos asegurarles 2 comidas diarias al día. No venimos a pedir nada extraordinario, sino lo que merece cualquier hijo de profesional, ¿no es cierto?, de la seguridad, en este caso policías y penitenciarios.
Mali has signed an agreement with China's Ganfeng Lithium to operate the Golamina lithium mine and increase its share in the project in accordance with the new mining code, the West African country's economy ministry said in a statement. Now, the mining code adopted last year allows the military-led government to increase its ownership of mining projects and recoup what it says is a major shortfall in production revenue. Mali's share in the Golamina project will increase to 35% from 20%, according to the Economy Ministry's statement from last week. And we'll move now to Ivory Coast, where the Coffee and Cocoa Council, that's CCC, said it has suspended around 40 cooperatives they suspect were illegally hoarding cocoa beans in order to sell them at a higher price to exporters struggling to fulfill their contracts. Exporters who have been short of supply due to cocoa disease and adverse weather are looking for ways to buy beans to honor their contractual obligations, and some suppliers were taking advantage of the situation, according to sources. Suspended cooperatives and independent buyers have stockpiled more than 60,000 metric tons of cocoa since the start of the mid-crop in early April. Now to sports, where the number of Nigerian table tennis players heading to the Paris 2024 Olympic Games has risen to 3 after Fatimo Bello defeated Algeria's Linda Lugariba 4-2 in the final of the second stage of the African Olympic qualification tournament in Kigali, Rwanda. Bello, who initially lost to Cameroon's Sarah Hafour in the first stage, bounced back to secure her spot in the women's single. She will join Nigerian teammate Olajide Omotayo and Ofyong, Edem in Paris. Additionally, Algeria's Midi Balosia, also narrowly missing out in the first stage, won the men's singles slot by defeating Congo-Brazzaville's Said Idou. In the meantime, SA Brume achieved a season's best of 6.87 meters at the Adidas Atlanta City Games, securing 3rd place in the women's long jump and meeting the automatic Olympic qualification standard. Having clinched a bronze medal at the Tokyo Olympics in 2021, Brume joined a cohort of Nigerian athletes who have aimed spots at the Olympics, including Tobia Muson in women's 100-meter hurdles, Udodu Nwozirike in men's 200-meter, and others such as Udedusa Ibadan, men's 800-meter, and Ruth Osuru in women's long jump, and Chukwu Ebuka Enekwechu in men's short put, as well as Favor Ashe in men's 100 meters, among others. And on to football. Nigeria again has reached the final round of the African qualifications series for the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup after a 6-0 victory over Burkina Faso at the MKO Abiola National Stadium in Abuja. Harmony Chidi, who scored 6 goals in Nigeria's 12-0 win over the Central African Republic, netted a hat-trick. Chidi opened the scoring after 11 minutes, followed by Peace Efong's goal in the 34th minute. Chidi added 2 more in the second half, with substitute Romota Karim and Efong also scoring. Despite a strong showing from Burkina Faso's goalkeeper Aguroto Bagayang, Nigeria's Flamingos scored a 7-1 aggregate win. And in basketball, boxing, a thrilling showdown in Saudi Arabia. Tyson Fury suffered a split decision defeat, marking a historical moment for Olajuwon Usyk, claimed the title of boxing's first 4-belt undisputed heavyweight champion. Initially showing promise, Fury faced a crucial moment in the 9th round, enduring an intense barrage from Usyk and narrowly escaping with a standing 10 count. The tension peaked as the scorecards were announced, with Fury expecting victory only to be met with the reality of Usyk's triumph. The Ukrainian fighter visibly moved to tears as his victory saw him snatch the WBC belt from Fury, adding to his already impressive collection of the WBA, WBO and IBF titles. At 37 years old, the Ukrainian champion remains undefeated, securing his place in boxing history as the sole heavyweight world champion after almost a quarter-century. And that's all at this hour right here on News Now. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. 10 years after Nigerian Army rescues 386 civilians from Sambisa Forest. Mali rebels accuse Army Wagner Group of murdering civilians. Authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo say a coup attempt has been foiled. Now remember that you can send us your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And to follow us on social media, we are at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV.